So I can just go ahead and use this time to pick off units, and then as soon as I run out of mana, I'm going to go ahead and use that Staff of Teleportation, which is a good idea when you're doing this kind of harass. Use the Staff of Teleportation to continue my Warden harass while I continue to creep up with my Panda. So the idea here is I'm really slowing him down. You know, you want when you're fighting on this map, you always want to make sure that you have, your answer to the human tier 2 push, assuming that they're not expanding. And in this particular case, I have him way on the defensive, and so if he does try to push me, I'll see it coming because I'll have a hero like already in his base, and if he doesn't try to push, I'll still have a good idea of what he's doing, and I'll still be doing all damage to him. So right there in that moment, I saw that he was potentially going for the surrounds, and you can deal with that in two cases. I hadn't assigned my 2 other skill points. I could have gone for Blink. And that would have safely gotten me out of the surround, but I noticed that he was using a bunch of low hit point units, and that it didn't look like I was going to need Blink right away, and so instead I chose to go for Fan of Knives in that circumstance and deal a lot of damage, kill a couple of units. And you can make that decision yourself. And of course, all the while, I'm making sure to creep with my Panda, as I stay on him for as long as possible with this Warden. And so this is something that you can do. You just need to make sure to time it correctly. As soon as he gets a couple casters out, a Mountain King, maybe a Spellbreaker, your Warden becomes far less effective. But right up to the point where you have level 3, and then from there up until he has a Mountain King and a Sorceress and maybe a Breaker, your Warden can do a whole lot of damage. And so you need to use that time to pressure him as much as possible, while you can be off creeping as much as you want with the rest of your units, and if you like, you can even put down an expansion of your own. If the human's expanded, the Warden is all the more effective. You need to play very, very aggressive with the Warden if the human expands, because the only thing that can stop your Warden is towers, arcane towers, and so you need to stay on him as much as possible, kill as many peasants to make the slow down the towers as much as possible, because he doesn't have a Mountain King, he doesn't have Breakers, he doesn't have Sorceresses, he's staying tier 1. And so you can focus down the Archmage and pick off peasants as much as you like, and just play very aggressive. You might not want to creep with your Panda in that case. You might want to send in right away to do Breath of Fire to couple with Fan of Knives and just kill lots and lots of units as he tries to expand. If you feel like his expansion's going up, you should probably counter it with an expansion of your own, which is very easy to do on this map. I've talked about it in previous replays, where you can place a Tree of Life close to a gold mine and then just creep it at a later date at your convenience. But those are all things that aren't happening in this game. They're just things that I like to mention as just other ways in which you want to make sure to use the Warden. So another thing that I want to mention about going Warden is that most human players are going to see a fairly simple counter to the Warden, and that counter rather is going to be a lot of Spellbreakers. With a Warden and Panda, in the past I've been tempted to just mass a lot of Dryads, because I figure that that's a very strong combination, because their only real counter to Dryads, be it Riflemen or Mortars, is countered very nicely by my by my Panda and by my Warden. But what I've found, and what I've seen also in higher level replays, is that going straight Dryads really isn't the best option. Or at least is a more difficult option, because Dryads, in and of themselves, don't necessarily counter the Breakers. You're going to have a hard time killing Breakers. You have to sort of use your heroes to supplement that Dryad damage. And your heroes, meanwhile, are going to get focused down very, very hard, and they're going to lose all their mana very quickly and become ineffective very fast. Because they're just going to be sort of bad tanks at that point. So, instead, I find it, a better option to go ahead and just go heavy bears. Expect the Spellbreakers, and you can use and now at this point you can take your 2 heroes and use them to sort of cancel out the casters and any other units that they have. And your bears, assuming you use Roar, and by that I mean that you should make sure that your bears are always low on mana, so they're not taking extra damage from the Spellbreakers, and you do that by casting lots of Roar. So the bears then become a very good counter to the Spellbreakers. And meanwhile, you can see that my expansion is actually up and running, because with all of that advantage that I got by keeping in his base with my Warden while I crept up with my Panda, I had lots of time to put up an expansion. Even though he didn't put up one of his own, I figured I would be able to defend it, and I definitely can. Another thing that I want to mention in terms of playing this like Warden Panda against human is that, again, with expecting the Mountain King focus, it's a good case for having anti-magic potion, which is something that you don't necessarily see a whole lot from Night Elf players, but the anti-magic potion is very useful because you pop that on both your heroes, then all of a sudden he doesn't really have anything to focus but your bears, which are easily staffed. And meanwhile, your army is, you know, doing a whole lot of damage to him. So now in this particular game, you can see that I'm going to go ahead and town portal home right now. He doesn't really have the army to beat me, and he's going to find it very difficult to expand with me using my whiz to scout the whole map. So already I'm in a very good position, all thanks to my level 2, or rather my tier 2 offensive Warden usage. But, you know, even if he had gotten an expansion up, I would still be in a pretty good position, you know, having an expansion of my own, you know, having higher level heroes. So this game is going especially well for me. But even, you know, against you know, a player who combated this a little better, it would still, the same principles would still apply.
Your building is complete.
One thing, I'm looking at my army right now, one thing that I should have done is I should definitely have staffs on both my heroes right now. With an expansion up and going a lot of bears, there's really no excuse not to. But I do have both anti-magic potions. And one thing you'll notice is that I've been doing is that you know, as my expansion gets up, I don't necessarily want to push his base right away. There's no reason for me to be forcing a fight as my expansion gets up, because that's really the time that he wants to be forcing a fight. You know, he wants to win a fight against me right then, but me, I'm happy to just do whatever damage I can and or creep while I take advantage of my resource advantage. The longer my expansion stays up while he doesn't have one, the better position I'm in. So I want to keep that going. So I was just running around killing his farms, doing a little bit of creeping. And when he eventually forced the issue and attacked my expansion, I forced the TP, keeping it up even longer. And now, all in all, I'm in a really good position. And so I'm just running from his army right now. There's no need to fight until I finally do decide that I'm in good enough, I have a large enough army, I'm in good enough position, that it's worth going ahead and fighting right now. You know, his militia have run out. I can use my illusion. And you see what I do right there is I run my Warden to the front, you know, bait the Mountain King, and then go ahead and use my anti-magic potion while I'm spamming Famine Knives and Breath of Fire. You can see all I can do is focus bears, which are pretty easily staffed in this case. Very quickly I can take out the Mountain King with use of Shadow Strike. And I haven't really lost anything in this fight, because there wasn't really anything he could do at this point in the game. So you can see, you know, a lot of times late game Warden Panda is less effective than Demon Hunter Panda or even Demon Hunter Naga because they can focus down your heroes so easily, but I was able to get enough of an advantage so that my heroes were so high level, and I was able to have enough of a level advantage so that I could buy items like healing potions and potions of anti-magic, so that I was able to sort of overcome that potential disadvantage, and just come up with a huge advantage in the end. So hopefully you guys picked up a few things from this commentary. Like I said, I know not a pro replay, but you guys can hopefully still get some information out of that. So let me know what you'd like me to cover next. I know it's been a while since I've been back on the scene, and I'm curious to see what is missing. A lot of people mentioned in their comments to me that they would like me to comment on other races. I would say at the moment I'm not really comfortable doing that. You know, I do play a fair amount of random, and I certainly watch a lot of replays and watch a lot of games for people playing other races, but I'm not as comfortable talking about anything other than the Night Elf perspective right now. I don't think I'd be able to give you guys as good of coverage as I normally do. So I'm not going to be covering other races for now, but any Night Elf matchup that you guys are interested in seeing, I would be happy to cover for you. So please let me know. And I'll just go ahead and go with whatever the majority is for next time around, which I should hopefully be able to have for you pretty soon. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this commentary. This has been Balance from WCRreplays.com, and I will see you next time. Thanks.